Hello everyone, and thank you for watching this presentation. My name is Gabrielle Diaz, and today I will be discussing the truth on vaping and how its changes over the years have led to where it is today. With younger populations, it's grown in popularity, and research has shown that youth who are vaping don't really know the contents of these devices and their health effects. So this presentation will cover all of that and then some more. So let's get started. In this presentation, we will be discussing what vaping is and what devices are used to vape. We will also discover the components of these e-cigarettes and talk about some of the flavorings, all the little things that make it up. We'll also go over a little history about vaping and where vaping is now in the news and in social media platforms. And then at the end, we'll have some resources that will be provided for those who would like more information or have any future questions about anything that you see in this presentation today. So, what is vaping? Vaping is the action of inhaling a vapor created by an electronic cigarette, also known as an e cigarette, or any other kind of vaping device. In this presentation, we're going to go over the different sizes and shapes that e cigarettes come in. But right now, you're probably wondering, oh, how does this all work? So, now what we're going to do is we're going to go in depth about the anatomy of it. So what are e-cigarettes? E-cigarettes are made up of the battery, the atomizer with a heating coil, and lastly you have the absorbent material that absorbs up the liquid. So in this picture on the left, we have the battery, which is the green part on the left side. And then we have the atomizer with the heating coil on the right side with the orange pinkish shadow. And then in the middle, we have the absorbent material as well as the cotton, which is represented by the white part. And then the black stars represent the flavorings. And since each cigarette has a different, size or shape, the anatomy of each one is a little different, but all of them have the same 3 to 4 components. The battery allows the atomizer to heat up the liquid, or also called e-juice, e-liquid, and then this creates the flavor in the aerosol that is inhaled into the lungs and then exhaled out into the air. In the coming slides, we will look at the different e-cigarettes as well as go into the components of all of the flavorings that are currently on the market today. So as I said before, e-cigarettes come in different shapes and sizes. Some of the earlier models look very similar to traditional cigarette. And if you look on the left side of the picture, you have a couple of models that look very similar to a regular cigarette. Some of them are more colorful than others, which can attract younger ages, and then some are much bigger. As in the middle here, we have a box mod, we also have a cigarillo, an electronic cigar, and we also have an electric pipe. If you look in the middle of the pipe and some of the other e-cigarettes, you'll see where the flavorings are inserted into, and then we'll talk about more of the modern looking ones. As you can see in these pictures, there are more of the modern looking e-cigarettes. They are much smaller, making them easier to hide either in small pockets or up shirt sleeves. On the left, we have a Juul, which is the most well-known and popular e-cigarette on the market currently. It is commonly mistaken for a USB drive. The Juul picture includes some of its pods that are included, and they are interchangeable, and each color represents a different flavor. On the right side, we have more of the other modern looking e-cigarettes, but as you can see, they are all small. They all are very sleek looking, making them easier to hide and attractive to younger populations. Currently on the market, there are over 15,500 flavors. These flavors are created to hide the taste of all of the chemicals that are either inside the e-juice or the e-liquid. On the left here, we have a picture of all of the pods that are made specifically for the Juul. Like I said, each one represents a different flavor. And on the right hand side, we have some bottles of different flavors. And if you look closely at these labels, you'll see that they closely represent and look like popular candy brands. So for example, all the way on the right hand side, the bottle looks like Sour Patch Kids. The second one in looks like Swedish fish, and then the one directly in the middle looks like trolley sour candies. These marketing practices are targeting products to young people who may not be old enough to purchase them or not even legal. And out of all of the flavored e-juices that are out there, almost all of them contain nicotine, which is a highly addictive chemical that we are familiar with from traditional cigarettes. And all Juul pods, believe it or not, contain nicotine, and it says it right there on the box. Most users who vape are actually not aware of this. They're also not aware of all the other chemicals that are inside. So now we're going to talk about all of those other chemicals. On this next slide here, we have a list of all of the chemicals that have been found in a traditional cigarette. So take a few moments to look at this list. Do you see any that you recognize? Some of the chemicals that jumped out to me personally are tin, lead, acetone, and aluminum. So, just looking at this list, how many do you think have been found in e-cigarette flavorings? Take another moment to think. So, it turns out that all of these have been found. And one of the scary things is that once two chemicals are combined, a whole new chemical is created. So, this just goes to show how many chemicals not only are in these e liquids, but also just goes to show how many haven't even been discovered yet. So, next time, if you vape, just think about that next time. I would like to take some time to review where some of these chemicals have also been found. And before I reveal each one, I will give a hint so you can think about it before the answer is revealed. So first up, we have propylene glycol. This chemical has been found in a liquid that you pour into your car. So take a moment to think about this. Okay, so propylene glycol has been found in antifreeze, which is a liquid that is used in cars to prevent danger from cold temperatures. The next chemical, acetone, has been found in something that is often used in nail salons. So take a second to think. All right, so acetone has actually been found in nail polish remover, and this is used to take off your nail polish. So the next chemical we have is ethylbenzene, and ethylbenzene is a chemical that has been found in something that you may buy to redecorate your room. All right, so the answer to this one is paints. And then finally, we have rubidium. Rubidium is a chemical that has been found in something that's in the sky on special occasions. Do you think you know it? It's actually fireworks. And if you've ever, thinking about this, if you're ever asked to use an e-cigarette, just think about all of these chemicals that could be in there next time that you make a decision. I now want to quickly discuss a part of vaping that is not known by most users. So the cloud is known as a vapor cloud that is exhaled from your mouth after the vaping device is used. And most people believe that it's just made of water vapor, but it's actually not. So what it actually is an aerosol that is created by the mixture of chemicals that were either in the e-liquid or chemicals that were created during the heating process. And this aerosol can be in the air and laid on furniture and other objects in the area, exposing people to secondhand and thirdhand smoke. So secondhand smoke is when you have that direct person to person exposure. So if someone's vaping around you and they get it, they do it right in your face, you have that secondhand exposure. And then third-hand exposure is when if someone's vaping on a couch or something and the cloud will get on the couch, it'll stay there, leaving you exposed to any of the chemicals that were released. I quickly want to go over some quick facts. So, the amount of nicotine that's inside one Juul pod is the same as one pack of cigarettes. And some people can go through a pod in a couple of hours, which just means that they can smoke a pack of cigarettes within a few hours. So, in the state of Connecticut, you have to be 21 years old to purchase any tobacco related product in the state of Connecticut. And this was a new change that was implemented back in October of 2019. Before then, it was 18 years old, but legislative people thought that changing this law would help would help all of this vaping panic. So there's not a single e-cigarette or vaping device that's been regulated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, and today this still stands true. So vaping is not an effective way to quit smoking cigarettes for youth. For youth, it's been proven that vaping e-cigarettes actually leads to smoking traditional cigarettes. It may be effective for somebody who's in their 40s or their 50s and decides that they want to use a vaping device to help quit smoking, but for youth, it actually has the opposite effect. So adolescents who are vape, just to build off this previous fact, they're 4 times more likely to start smoking regular cigarettes. So yeah, that just goes hand in hand with the previous statement. So nicotine, which is that highly addictive chemical that we've talked about and may be familiar with already, it affects impulse control and learning, causing mood disorders and other changes to the brain. So the human brain develops until you're about 25 years old. So any changes or anything that you do that may change, your brain development can affect your health long term. And then in 2014, e-cigarette advertising cost almost $88.1 million. And, since then, that was a couple years ago, it's since then has increased. And, they do their advertising either on websites that, young people visit or on TV, radio, you name it. So now we will briefly discover and discuss the history of vaping. So, the history of vaping. The first documented reference to an electronic cigarette is dated back about 90 years ago by a man named Joseph Robinson. And he's on the left side here. It wasn't until about 1965 when a man named Herbert A. Gilbert created the first device that closely resembled a modern e cigarette, but it was never commercialized. So, years later, 1979, both research and technology had advanced, and a man named Phil Ray created the first commercialized e cigarette. It did not do well since it wasn't a promising tool for delivering nicotine, so unfortunately, it failed. So, during the 1980s and the 1990s, there was not really any advancements in this technology. The FDA did not approve any patents. And it wasn't until about 2003 when the first successful electronic cigarette was created in Beijing, China, by a man named Han Lik. He was inspired by his father, who died from lung cancer, to create an alternative for smoking cigarettes. And then in 2006, we see electronic cigarettes are starting to be introduced to Europe and the United States. After years of exposure, countries started to suspend the sale of e cigarettes, such as Turkey, Australia, and Canada. The World Health Organization stated that they don't consider e cigarettes a legitimate smoking cessation aid, and the FDA still does not regulate any e cigarettes that's on the market, and this still stands true. They grew, in popularity, although this was all happening. And then fast forward to 2015, where Juul was founded by two young men who went to Stanford University. Not only did they grow in popularity among the older population, but they started to attract younger generations. And research showed that younger generations are starting to become addicted to these e-cigarettes, and they start to question Juul's marketing practices. More recently, Juul's headquarters is rated by the FDA on their marketing practices, and at the same time, cities and states are starting to ban the sale of flavorings and the sale of tobacco products to people under the age of 18. Last year, the death toll rise in hospitalizations of vape-related illnesses, they all increased, specifically in the August to September months. And a lot of research was unknown because of this sudden increase in hospitalizations and is still being done today. But right now, this is what we know. So, patients with cases associated with e cigarette illness are now diagnosed with EVALI, which stands for e cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury. As of February 18th, there have been about 2,800 cases reported of EVALI to the CDC from all 50 states, including Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Among these cases, there have been 68 deaths among 29 states and Washington, D.C. And all patients who have been hospitalized reported a history of using e-cigarettes prior to their illness and or death. This slide shows the number of hospitalizations by state. In Connecticut, we are in the 100 to 149 cases range, and some of the larger states have more cases reported. If you look at Texas, California, and New York, since they have more people, they have more cases related, and they're in that anywhere from 150 to 249 cases. All states have at least one case. More recently, we have seen emergency department visits related to e-cigarette or vaping product use decline, which is great. But why do you think that is? Well, there's more than one answer, and if you would like, take a minute to write down a couple of reasons why you think they are declining. We'll definitely revisit these later. We will now discuss vaping in the news and in social media. Showing how it's portrayed in the media will help us answer the question that we talked about on the last slide. So, as we go through these final slides, feel free to add any ideas to your answer. This slide highlights some of the important headlines that have been written in the news. These headlines that I chose really stuck out to me, and as you can see, it's really hard to keep up with with reading them because many news stories come out about vaping each and every day. So as you can see, the headlines are either about Juul and their marketing practices, deaths or illnesses that are happening by state, um, something about social media, and then I end it with this headline: "The vaping panic is out of hand." And this is something that has gained popularity so fast in our society, and some people aren't even sure how to handle it. And it's important, that we pay attention and understand how we can use our platforms and how we can talk to other people to encourage them the right thing to do, which in this case is to not vape and encourage youth to not participate in it as well. One of the most popular and used social media sites today is Instagram. Instagram is used to share photos with people and can reach thousands of people with just a single hashtag. I included a picture on this slide with the hashtag vape to show what kinds of pictures show up. You can see different pictures of flavorings, some customized devices, and even young people using e-cigarettes. And anyone can access these photos if you have the app, and unfortunately, it's out there for anybody to see, especially younger populations. Fortunately, some people use their social media accounts to advocate for healthier lifestyles, specifically no vaping. I found this young man's account. His name is Chance, and Chance was hospitalized for 8 days because both of his lungs collapsed. He used his e cigarette a lot. He said that he probably went through a pod in a couple of hours, and all of this exposure led to his lungs collapsing. And ever since his tragic event, he now uses his platform to share his story and to share his message. His message is to change your mindset, get rid of your e cigarette, and to not vape. He really hopes to inspire others to do the same. So, if you look at the picture on the left, it's a picture of him and his mother at the hospital after he recovered from his lungs collapsing. And then on the right hand side, we have him and a friend striking outside of a vape shop. So if you would like to look more at his story, I have included his Instagram username. I've also included his foundation that he founded, Lung Love Foundation, if you would like to look for more information. National organizations also have used their platforms to portray similar messages, such as the Truth and Truth Initiative. So I have included a couple of their posts here. So post 1 on the left shows how one pod is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. So they laid out 20 cigarettes and just showing that, a small device is able to hold all of that. So Post 2 shares information about their Text to Quit program. What's neat about the Truth Initiative is that they have created a text to quit program that you can do it from the confidentiality of your own phone. And you can choose how many messages you would like to get a day, how frequently you would like to get them. And they give you tips and motivation to quit and to stay quit. And then post 3 on the right hand side here, it shows how flavored Jewel pods are hooking youth into using them. So you can see they have the fish hook with the mint and the mango flavors, and then they show the Jewel pod, which represents the flavor of e-liquid. And these two sources are well known for their tobacco cessation research and all of their advertisements as well. And they have a lot of great information on their websites. So if you would like some more information, I have included their Instagram usernames as well on this slide. If you'd like to look into them and looking for any more information. So, what can we do as youth to stop ourselves and others that we care about and spend time with? How can we stop them from vaping? The first thing that we can do is educate. We can educate ourselves, our family members, friends, basically anybody that we spend time with. The second thing that we can do is look into additional resources, such as these websites. The Truth Initiative, which we've touched on briefly. We also have smokefree.gov. They have a lot of great information as well, and they even also have their own text program, again, so you can do that from the confidentiality of your own phone. Looking into news sources, especially local resources, can also give you some information, especially about what's going on around Connecticut. We also have the town of Fairfield, our health department page, also has some links to various resources and more information that if you are wanting to learn more, you can always check that out. It's important to learn the right information and to tell people about it. The last thing that we can do, and the most important one, is to love our lungs and to take good care of them. Don't vape. You'll be doing yourself a favor and you'll be practicing good health habits by not doing it. And the last thing that I want to mention before we end this presentation is that we did mention that this idea that emergency department visits related to e-cigarette or vaping products are declining. And again, that is great. But this doesn't mean that we can stop the conversation. One of the best ways to stop others from vaping is to continue onto why we shouldn't do it. And, learning the right information, encouraging others to not do it, presenting the facts. That is communication, that is the only way that we're going to see these changes happen. So this concludes the presentation on e-cigarettes and vaping. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you take something from this presentation and share it with someone. I've left my contact information on this slide if you have any questions and would like to reach out. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.